Get ready for Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes, the 30-minute show packed with an hour's worth of information, bringing you familiar guests on important issues such as immigration, education, the Middle East, culture, religion, and the changing worldviews of Americans and the world. You've seen her on Fox News, you've read her on the World Wide Web. Now here's Sharon.
For such a time as this.
Freeing the minds of the brainwashed masses.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into the show today, and a special hello and thank you to all veterans who are listening. There are not words to adequately thank you for your service, no matter when you served. Americans all across our nation are giving honor where honor is due to all of our veterans of World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf War, and currently, I think it's very interesting to note that on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, World War I ended. And though the armistice was signed at 5 a.m., fighting continued until 11 a.m., killing nearly 11,000 more men. Well, today is our Veterans Day special, and when we get back from this break, I've got a great audio clip by Colonel Oliver North, plus a very special interview. So stay with me. We'll be right back after this break with a very special Veterans Day tribute.
Some are born to lead that we may follow. They stand for everything that's good and true. They can handle anything. They define what courage means. That's what it takes to do the job they do. They're not afraid to put their lives in danger while serving and protecting me and you. It isn't very hard to see the principles that they believe. You have to walk the talk to wear their shoes. Oh, the footsteps of a hero are guided by strength of heart. It is their destiny to change our history when duty calls.
You're listening to Sharon Hughes, not afraid to say it like it is, even on the most controversial topics, bringing you the real story behind the news on the issues that matter most.
We here at Changing Worldviews and Woman Talk pause to remember and honor those who sacrifice in order to defend our freedom here at home. You know, we honor all veterans who served in America's armed forces and their families, and we also remember with deep gratitude all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for us. You know, it was President Ronald Reagan who once said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in the United States, where men were free. Well, we thank God that there have been brave men and women throughout our history who have stepped up to the plate with dedication and devotion to defend our freedom and to defend us. It's one of the reasons we started Operation Heartlift here at Changing Worldviews. It's the least those of us here at home, the recipients of the efforts and the sacrifices of our troops, to not only feel gratitude in our heart, but to express it in very tangible ways. And that's what we're doing with Operation Heartlift, and so hoping that you will join us in our effort. And not only do we want to honor, but we also want to remember to keep the men and women of our nation's armed services in our thoughts and our prayers. So we hope you and your family will take time to join us in honoring our nation's heroes, and also that you will find a moment to thank a veteran for their part in helping to preserve our freedom. Send an email, send a card, pick up the phone, call a veteran that you know, and let them know how grateful you are. are. Now here's Colonel Oliver North and what he has to say about our veterans, especially our young veterans today.
Think about getting a teenage boy to clean up his own room, do his own laundry, fix his own meals, clean up everything without a size 10 in the backside. And yet that same youngster today washes and mends his own clothing, feeds himself, takes care of cleaning his weapon, cleaning himself. He's totally self-sufficient. The kid who once wouldn't share a candy bar with his little brother now gives away his last drop of water to a wounded comrade, his only MRE to a hungry Afghan kid, and splits his ammo with a mate in a firefight. I always save this one for last when I'm explaining it to young people about who they are, because so few of them know the truth of these youngsters. This is a frame taken from my footage on the 6th of April, 2003. Baghdad is the smoke pall you see in the background. The Marine unit I'm with embedded is the van, the lead element of the attack on the Eastern Corridor. We're about 15 miles outside of Baghdad, and a Republican Guards regiment ambushes this Marine rifle company. They spin their Humvees around, and there is a gunfight that occurs between this regiment and this rifle company. And in the midst of the beaten zone, the area where the intersecting bullets are crossing, a United States Navy corpsman I had first met in Kandahar in 2001 rushes into the battlefield, right through the fire, drags two wounded Marines out, and carries them on his shoulder to a helicopter that's landed in the roadway. And in this footage right here, I am standing on the ramp of that helicopter. And this corpsman, who's rushed now twice before and brought these two wounded back, now has the third one. And off to the right-hand side, as you look at the screen, a Reuters news crew sets up their tripod, and they're videotaping him going in and out. And as this guy staggers back into the gunfight, one of them shouts out, "Hey, mate, what did you do that for? Didn't you notice?" In other words, you stupid American. Didn't you notice that wasn't a Marine? If you look carefully at that photograph, you'll see that the wounded warrior, who's already been bandaged up by that United States Navy medical corpsman, isn't a Marine. It's a wounded Iraqi soldier. And this U.S. Navy corpsman has rushed into the battlefield to save his life. He says, "Didn't you notice? He was wounded." That's what we do. We're Americans.
When that plane finally landed was kiss the ground. I just came back from a war.
This month at Changing Worldviews, we are turning our focus to raise donations for Operation Heartlift to send our Christmas care packages to our troops who are still in Afghanistan. And with the increase of our troops killed, it's more crucial than ever to send support. And so once again, I'm asking you to be as generous as you can to help us send as many care packages as we can to our troops this Christmas. And you can donate by going to changingworldviews.com, click on the donate button there, and you can do that by credit card, or you can send your donation by mail to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California 94975-0624. And let me just thank you ahead of time for supporting our troops. Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Weisman and Audrey Russo, co-host with Woman Talk. Audrey, thank you for being with me today.
Hey, Sharon. It's great to be with you.
Your cousin Lawrence has been serving for over 20 years. He's had several stints there in Iraq, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's been all over the Middle East, but especially in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce him?
Well, it's my pleasure. My cousin, who we are very proud of, and it is my honor to introduce you to Lawrence Weisman.
Well, welcome to the show, Lawrence. We're just so glad that you could be with us and would like for you to just share with our listeners, number one, why you have chosen to serve in the military for so long. What do you want to say about the philosophy of a military service member in today's 21st century? What would you like to say?
It is a long time. I've been in since I signed on in 1982 and did a bunch of active duty years there, about 9 of them. But I think I've always been a service-oriented person in that sense. sense. For me, the military is something I felt everybody should participate in, be part of. I don't want to say pay their dues, but if we don't maintain that, and that was how I felt even in my early 20s, that without some kind of structure to maintain that, we're going to lose that. A lot of it goes back to, how should I say it, an interest in history in general. American history for us, because that's what we're mostly taught. It starts way back in the 1700s with the, what I call the Minutemen, the guys that came up out of the fields to make this happen, so that the work that these people started with in the beginning doesn't stop, doesn't fall in vain.
And so obviously we need more than ever honorable, dedicated people serving in the military because of the situation that we face in the war on terror today.
It's somebody or something trying to terminate what we have developed here in this country that's spread to other parts of the world. As we know, we're the longest standing republic where you have freedom. And, even before that was always something that was under threat. In my opinion, as I can demonstrate through 25 years of service, it was worth putting myself in the forefront of maintaining that.
What would you like to say as someone who has served for so many years? You've been in the Middle East. You've faced what we are dealing with currently in the war on terror. Regarding those that are perhaps Americans that are losing heart or growing faint in the effort, and also that seem to be waning in their support for our troops. Anything you'd like to say about that?
The opinions that are formed are going to be the result of what people are reading or hearing through the various news services. I think it goes down to, if everybody was responsible to serve a part, they'd have a better feel for what's going on, how others feel about us as a people. That information is being formed by few. People are not going to find that on their own. So what's happening is you're having fewer people forming the opinions for many, and therein lies a lot of the problem.
It's interesting. I was watching on C-SPAN a briefing from the general in command of the multinational coalition forces there in Iraq, and he had charts and graphs, and it just shows that we are really doing well. These kinds of things are not really being reported by the mainstream media.
To me, it appears that we've got a slanting view. A lot of the media is not in favor of this outside conflict. Mm-hmm. They're not looking into things that have happened in the past, how that is going to affect us 10, 50, 100 years down the line. It's a long-term thing that's going to be going on a long time. We're going to have problems.
So what do you know personally, being in and out with the troops, of how this affects the morale of the troops?
Well, I can speak for myself and friends and the people I've either worked for or have I've commanded. The military folks out there in general ignore most of the liberal media. They look at it and go, these guys don't know what they're talking about, which it's good that they're able to see through that. The maturity level is very high. No one likes to hear that what they're doing is not what they're supposed to be doing, but the general military mass itself is too mature for that.
This is why the morale's so high, and this is why they're doing the job. Not that we had any doubt that they were going to do the job, but that's really great news to hear. Then again, we have very intelligent people in the service, which is not exactly what the media believes.
And not what John Kerry thought. And I throw that in there.
Well,
education, if you make the most of it and you study hard and you do your homework and you make an effort to be smart, you can do well. If you don't, you get stuck in Iraq.
We know where that comes from.
Yeah, we don't need to go down that road. But
anyway. Well, I can speak to that. I've worked in different industries right here. I work in the software, the technical issues that are done here. We have a tremendously educated and intelligent military force in the United States, period. No questions asked. Many of the most dedicated people I have had the pleasure of working with in my life are in the military. And the guys I work with are exceptionally bright, dedicated people. And I've been in active duty, reserve, and guard. I'll speak to the reserve and guard. There's people from the electricians, teachers. We have police who come in and serve also, participating, serving in a strong, positive manner. It's not what you're hearing or seeing from the mainstream media. And I purposefully make sure that when I'm peacetime training or coming back from overseas, I try to make sure that I come back in, that these people say, hey, there's a tan flight suit or there's tan khakis. These are people in service that they see in their neighborhoods, people who live there and work on a regular basis.
Mainstream America supports our troops, are proud of our troops. And here, just a last thought from you, Lawrence, anything that you would like to say to the American people that are listening to this show about Veterans Day, about serving, about our nation?
This is a great nation, but it's going to take a continued effort by maintaining a strong military, and you're going to have to use that military now and again. And unfortunately, I don't like to say get used to the fact that that's going to happen, but there are parts of the world that don't welcome how we operate here, and we need to protect what we have here, and that needs to be supported.
Well, we agree with you, and we want to thank you for your service, Lawrence. We want to thank you for coming on the show, but particularly for your service and for your dedication. And I know that you are an inspiration to your fellow troops, and we just take our hats off to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
I want to say again how very proud we are of him. I know he's blushing on the other end there, but we are very proud, and I thank you so much. Hooah is what I say.
There you go. I like what Lawrence said. He said, I wear my uniform of the United States Air Force with honor. It's an honor to serve. I wear it home from training during the week. I wear it home from fighting America's war against terror overseas. I wear it so that the people who live in my small town can see that real people who live there are serving with honor and taking the fight for freedom to our enemies. That is the heart of the American soldier.
Congratulations on 10 years. That's amazing. Radio is kind of a debugging experience as we learn more and more about things that we thought were true, but we find out were not true, and we peel the layers of the onion.
If you'd like to change the world, won't you partner with us? Just go to changingworldviews.com/donation page or send your donation to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California 94975-0624. You'll not only help us stay on the air in your area, but it's a way to let Sharon know you're standing with her.
It's the kind of education that one could never get in conventional education. And I know you bring on some great experts over the years, and it's just a great experience.
I've got a special guest who also continues to be serving his nation by serving the troops. And as a matter of fact, he is very much engaged still in serving the military, serving our country through veteran service organizations, and actually is the Assistant Commanding General for Final Military Honors, which is a national position. Pastor Dan, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Welcome to Changing Worldviews.
Sharon, thank you so much. What a blessing it is to be on with you, and I appreciate so much you're asking me to share what we're doing. Actually, I'm a Brigadier General with the United States Volunteers, and that's really the VSO, or the Veteran Service Organization, that I'm a part of.
Okay, so I noticed on your website that you say, I often say, I have never met anyone over the age of 20 and often younger that doesn't need recovery from something. That also includes our troops, whatever age, coming home from war today. This is a little bit of an unusual emphasis for a pastor. So why are you doing a radio show specifically about troops?
That's the question I was looking for, Sharon. You know, as a pastor and one who has been in the military and still serves with the U.S. Volunteers, I know that there are things that happen when our young folks come back that people who have not experienced it can't know. And I also was a combat officer for 14 years in the field artillery, so I know what they've seen. And I know that one of the things that goes first is trust, and not only trust in fellow human beings, but even trust in God. When you see these things and can't explain them, and the cultural perspective and worldview standpoints that we take into combat with us. There are some individual churches that are doing an okay job in reaching out to the veterans, but the faith community as a whole, I don't think is doing a very good job. And I think there are many different reasons for it that I'm not going to go into here, but I felt that there might be a way that we as the faith community can be sensitized to the plight of our returning veterans, if only they knew. And so I came up with this idea, and I talked to Andy Santamaria, who has been just a blessing. And what we do is we interview veteran service organizations and people who are in the VA. We've interviewed Don Rinker with the National Cemetery Administration. We've done the Goodwill that has a huge veteran outreach. Swords to Plowshares, Mylene Garcia has come on. Mary Ellen Salzano with the State Collaborative. 75 veteran service organizations every 6 weeks that get together and talk about how we can better provide services for our returning veterans. And I felt that the faith community needed to know about this so they too can participate. We give them contact information and all those things. And hopefully this is one where people are telling their pastors about and telling their fellow church members.
Yes, and they need to know that we care and that they're not forgotten. And I know that you mentioned some of the things that you are involved in beyond your radio show. Tell our listeners some of the other things that are happening even here locally in the San Francisco Bay Area that you participate in. The homeless troops, that is huge. And a lot of times folks get touched at Christmas time and we think about the homeless out on the streets when it's cold, but people that are homeless throughout the year. Right. Sunshine, rain, cold. Do you have any figures of how many of the homeless in America are actually troops, soldiers?
You should ask. Actually, yes. There are 3 estimates. There's a conservative estimate, a liberal estimate, and a median. The conservative estimate is 34% of the entire homeless population in the United States are veterans. We don't really believe that. We think it's much higher. The liberal, if you will, estimate is somewhere around 60%. And actually, the median that they think is actually around half, between 48 and 50% of the homeless population in the United States is said to be veterans.
Wow. So they come home, they're definitely affected on every level, some of them physically, so they spend time in the hospital, such as Walter Reed, but they're obviously not getting the care they need or they wouldn't be choosing the homeless lifestyle, right?
You know, there was a guy that is really famous now, Jonathan Shea, who wrote the book Iliad in Vietnam and Odysseus in America, and he has done a lot of studies about the wounds that people can't see. And those are the post-traumatic stress wounds and the things that happen, and even some of the TBI or the traumatic brain injuries that we now know occur much more than we thought before. Mm-hmm. And people don't understand that the woundings aren't just the ones that bleed. And after Vietnam, the VA did not do a good job in bringing a lot of those folks back into society. They do a much better job now. They understand it better, and so the OIF and GWAT vets that are coming back are getting better attention. Mm-hmm. But there's still a lot of folks that are Vietnam veterans who kind of slip through the cracks on it. Those things, when a disorder stays a disorder long enough, it turns into mental illness. And a lot of our veterans are having these kind of challenges, and we don't know how to get to them because we can't find them, or what we do is we find them after they have committed a crime for whatever reason, and I'm not excusing the crime, but we also know that a lot of these folks are very desperate. And so in order for us to counteract some of that, we do these stand-downs around the country. And by the way, the term stand-down may be of interest in how we get there. When you're getting ready to go to war, you hear on the radio or someone will come to you and they'll say, "Stand to," very quietly, stand to. And what happens is that's the quiet before the storm, where you make sure you have enough ammunition, you make sure that you know what the battle plan is. It's the time that you start praying because you're about to go into it and the whole 9 yards, and the chaos breaks out. And afterwards, they bring you to a back area or rear area, and it's called stand down, where they give you resupply. You lick your wounds. You get ready to go back again, but you have some time to sleep. And it's a resting place. And so this stand down, these military veterans, they understand exactly what the term means. And so when they hear that there's going to be a stand down in their area, they know it's for them. And so we actually go out and find them and qualify them through their DD-214, which is the form that everybody gets when they leave the service. And we bring them in. And one of the things that we provide is also spiritual counseling. In fact, just one short vignette. I was walking around with one of the other chaplains that I recruited for the East Bay stand down last year, and a guy named Ed came up to me and he said, "Chaplain," he says, "you know, I'm here in a place where I'm finally starting to get healthy and things are working out for me again." He says, "But I know there's one thing missing." And he threw me the best softball a pastor can ever have. He said, "Do you know how to get really close to God?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do." And so we started talking for about 20 minutes and prayed. And I don't know if this man had ever prayed before. He might have. But we prayed him into the kingdom that day for sure. And it's that kind of thing when these people are presented with the fact that there's a holy, loving God out there that really wants that relationship. That relationship is so important to God to have with each that he loves so much. And when they hear that, and his judgment has been taken care of, atonement has been taken care of because of Jesus Christ, then all of a sudden, a lot of these guys hear something that they may not have heard before in church. That really, yes, we still have a God that judges, but we have someone who has atoned for those sins, and Jesus Christ is the one who shed his blood. And it's a wonderful experience to be able to talk to these guys in a way that's very non-threatening, very one-on-one, and they listen to us because we've been there as other veterans.
Right, and obviously you're there doing more than talking. You're showing your care. Thank you so much for what you're doing. So why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners your website address?
If people want to contact me, there's two ways to do it. My cell phone is 925-595-4879, and my email is pastordude, that's PASTORDUDE, at awakenings, with an S, awakeningschurch.org. So 925-595-4879, and then pastordude at awakeningschurch.org.
Great. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, this month at Changing Worldviews, our theme is to leave a legacy. Obviously, November marks the beginning of holiday family get-togethers, starting with Thanksgiving, and there's really no better time to think about the mark that you are making on your family, on your community, and the future than when you are focused on being thankful for your blessings. We need to remember that God has a plan, and He has a timetable in His heart, and He wants us to be a part of that. He wants to use us to bring about a good end, but we need to be engaged. So, thanks for tuning in today, as always, and I want to ask you to please stand with us this month to help pay for airtime, and your gift to Changing Worldviews will go directly to pay for airtime. With the holidays fast approaching, I've got a great little book to help ensure that you not only enjoy the holidays, but have a stress-free time preparing for all of the activities, family gatherings, and so forth. It's Overcoming Holiday Stress by a marriage and family counselor, Cynthia Bonker, as well as a CD of my interview with her for a donation of $25 or more this month. Some practical tools to make this holiday season stress-free. I'd love to send you this resource for supporting us, and you can do that by making your donation online at changingworldviews.com. Just click on the one-time donation, type in monthly offer, or you can send a check to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750-624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I encourage you to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on KDIA AM 1640 at 4:30 p.m. and every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays for our 1-hour live stream show, which you can access by going to changingworldviews.com, listen online, or by telephone at 424-222-5360, or online, changingworldviews.com. Click on the Blog Talk Radio link, and that'll take you to our online stream show. And there's also archives there as well. So until I see you tomorrow, this is Sharon Hughes saying it like it is.
Thanks for listening to Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes. You can get more information on today's topic or order a CD of today's show by visiting changingworldviews.com or writing us at Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. You can also contact us at talk@changingworldviews.com. That's talk@changingworldviews.com. Our program is listener-supported, and we appreciate your tax-deductible donations to help us get the truth out on the important issues Sharon addresses on the show. So until next time, remember, stay alert, stay informed. We live in a changing world.